On today's episode, I'm excited to be joined by Chris Lowe. Chris spent years at Disney and has since worked closely with city leaders and developers, helping great ideas become real places for families and guests. He has been a trusted advisor as we explore opportunities in and around Anaheim, and he understands how partnerships, timelines, and community impact come together on major projects.
And the name brand of the shirt.
Chris, welcome to Fish After.
Michael, thank you for having me on. I've heard good things. I've watched some previous episodes, so I'm honored and excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's a couple questions. You spent years at Disney, so you were there for a long time before moving into civic and development work. So, what were some of the biggest lessons you took from that experience working at Disney?
That's a great question. I was with Disney for about 13 years, and then 2 additional years they hired me back as a consultant. My last role was Director of Global Development, and just a wonderful opportunity to represent the Disney brand, in the Bahamas, in China, in Hong Kong, in Central Florida, as it relates to growth and real estate development. The short answer to your question, I would say just understanding the cultural differences I was on the leadership team that brought a amusement park to Shanghai, central China, and lived in China for 6 months as we saw that a theme park develop and ultimately open in June of 2016.
Wow, what an adventure!
Yeah, no, it was an amazing experience. I loved every minute of it. It was challenging, to be sure. We did some amazing things with the Chinese government. I'm happy to learn and report back that the Shanghai park is doing really well. Had some troubling years coming through COVID, but the leadership team there is seasoned. They're responsible, and the Chinese community has really embraced Disney storytelling.
Oh wow, that's great. I was thinking as you were speaking, I was thinking about one of my teachers, mentors, probably the most influential one I've ever had, would say, one of the most important things to do in your professional career is like know people. Like kind of build your network of people that can help you to produce outcomes you can't do on your own, right? You could be a lone ranger only up to a certain point, but it really like your real impact that you make on yourself and the people around you is who you meet. And I just think about that, like, where am I going to meet people? I have no idea where I'm going to meet people. I guess I can go to LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden social media started popping up. I guess I could go there. What I think I've always had this massive blind spot to is the millions of people that come into restaurants that could be opportunities of just to get to know people. Because you're so busy had to butt up working in the restaurants, and then you come along. So this is how Chris and I met. Is he's a customer at our Long Beach location, and we had a mutual friend that said, "Hey, my buddy is, he's been eating at your place. You should meet him." I go, "Who's that?" And he's got a boat right outside, and I'm like, I'm listening to you speak, and I'm thinking about this. How many people go through these restaurants, and I'm so like, I guess maybe it's one of my phobias, like in the restaurant industry, they say you got to touch tables, got to get to know people, and I'm like, oh man, but what if they're not happy? What if they didn't like the food? I'm just gonna go back to my car and leave. Because you have those experiences like that when it's all fabricated. 99% of the time, people are happy and they love to meet, one of the people that owns it and that works there. But I think that's how we met.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. It was very serendipitous. I've had my boat in Long Beach, right there in Basin 2, and I watched you guys take it over. It was kind of in a wreck when you guys got it. There's a lot of deferred maintenance. Candidly, the community had pushed away from the old operator, and then you guys came in. And I remember as a boat owner, kind of in the shadow of the restaurant, reading in the paper everything they had to do to shore up the seawall, build it to your specifications, and then with excitement, a lot of us that are right there with you, went in and tried your food for the first time, and it was amazing. And the great thing about you and your brand is, my dad grew up in Hawthorne. So when I mentioned to him, hey, there's a San Pedro fish market opening up down by the boat, he had these amazing memories, of high school, on special occasions, going down to San Pedro, waiting online and getting into your fish market. So, it was great for him. And it was nice for me to experience it as an adult, and share those experiences with him. And then the nice thing is, as I get more involved with you and the family and the whole San Pedro team, that story is not uncommon. It's almost almost on a 90% basis, people have fond memories of going to the fish market. So
That's right, because you invited me to a golf tournament recently, and I was sitting next to, was it the Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah.
I think she had the same story.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Natalie Meeks, Mayor Pro Tem of Anaheim, grew up in Garden Grove. You met her at the YMCA charity golf tournament, and she had the exact same story as my dad. As a kid, driving out to the port, going to the San Pedro Fish Market. She loved the food, loved the celebration, and had nothing but positive memories. And like I said, that, I would struggle to find somebody who doesn't have that kind of, I would say, just core memory of being with you and the fish market team.
Yeah, wow, that was a really cool story. I forgot about that. So let's kind of transition over to Anaheim. So you do a lot of work with the city of Anaheim. What makes it such a unique place for growth and opportunity right now?
Anaheim's special on a lot of fronts. First, I spent the first 6 years of my career at Disney, there at the park. Even going further than that, I was born in Fullerton. My earliest memories are, on birthdays and holidays, going to the Disneyland park. So it was just a professional honor and amazing opportunity to represent Disneyland for a number of years to the city of Anaheim and the local community. I loved it. Anaheim's special for a lot of reasons. There's not a lot of cities that have a global amusement park or really kind of launch the amusement park business. Anaheim is the only park that Walt Disney himself designed and physically oversaw the construction. So it's unique and special from that standpoint. But it's also fun. It has a Major League Baseball team, has a Major League Hockey team. So there's I was a former mayor of a city just north of Anaheim, Placentia. So I always kind of was jealous of Anaheim because it had, all of these major corporations, this hospitality hub. It was large in scale, over 300,000 residents, had its own police department, fire department. But with that, Disneyland celebrating its 70th anniversary, and, every decade it grows and it's bigger. Today, obviously, it's got 2 theme parks. They've got room to grow. Back in 2024, Disney passed Disney Forward, over $2 billion investment in the local Anaheim market. And they're off and running. They're already, going through their first phase, which is their West End expansion. And then they have room to grow. So, it's exciting to think about the future, but going all the way back to Anaheim's beginning over 150 years ago, it's always been a special place. It's always been a place that's entrepreneurial in terms of, I would say, philosophy, and it's home based and family based. Anaheim means Santa Ana River is where the city was founded, and home is German for home. So the Anaheim is the combination of the Santa Ana River, which fed all the groves and all of the original farmers, and the sentiment of being at home. So Anaheim means home by the river.
I had no idea. That's incredible. I did not know that. I mean, I've been hitting there myself since I was a kid, and where we now live, we were like 15 minutes up Catella. So we bring the kids all the time, and it's funny when the kids are all, now my daughters are all in their 20s, all 3 of them, but whenever they're in town or their friends are in town, they leave like 9 o'clock at night to go to Salt and Straw downtown Disney. I mean, it's like, or just to go hang out there. It's funny.
It's amazing. And you mentioned Catella. That's another great story. When Disneyland was first being conceptualized, there's a farmer that Walt Disney needed, the land to, pull together a critical mass to build the theme park. And he went to this farmer and asked for the land. And the farmer, worked with the city of Anaheim, worked with Disney on one condition, that the road on the southern end of his property would carry the name of his two daughters. That's and right. Those daughters were Kate and Ella. So Catella is a marriage of both of his daughters. You can go to the Garden Walk, which is a retail center in the resort area, and there's a physical statue of both Kate and Ella that was put there in memory of that farmer and his daughter. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I knew about that because I'm closer to Los Alamitos on the where Catella begins, right? Before it turns into Willow, and then you're in Long Beach. I'm right on the border. And my kids would come home and tell me that story because I think they learned it in school.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. And again, it speaks back to that, Anaheim at its core is all about family. It's all about, remembering legacy and things of that nature. So,
you know what? You said something earlier that I don't want to step over. You were the mayor of Placentia. Was that before or after Disney? What's that story?
It was before Disney. I was humbled to get elected at 28.
Wow.
Now that I'm in my 50s, I think I was grossly unprepared for the responsibility, but the city at that time, needed some new energy, some new ideas. I had just come from working for the governor in Sacramento, wanted to stay involved in politics, wanted to help my local community. So just kind of on a Hail Mary attempt, there was an open seat that my friend Carol Downey vacated. So I threw my hat in the ring, knocked on every door in the city, and, thankfully, the city elected me. So I served for 8 years, and the last 2 years as the mayor of the city, which was just a wonderful opportunity.
Wow, that is a big chunk of an early part of your life, or your career at least.
It was a great time, balancing, growing a young family, and it was also a difficult time. I was married during 9/11, and a lot of us remember certain things about it, but early days of 9/11, they didn't know where the next attack was going to be, what was going to happen. And, to the president's credit, he flew all of the mayors out to DC and said, hey, we need help. We don't know what's coming next. We need help from your police department, your fire department. And flew and took us up to ground zero. We met with the mayor there just to kind of bring it all to life and make it real. And we all came back. So I think I was 30 at the time, and having that experience is something I carry with me today. But yeah, it was a wonderful opportunity. I love serving my community. I think we did some good things, and that's where ultimately I met the mayor of Anaheim as we were doing some regional projects. And then when Disney said, "Hey, we're looking for our head of government relations," the mayor said, "Hey, there's one guy that would be a perfect fit. That's Chris Lowe." Encouraged me to apply for the job. I applied and got it. And that kind of launched my Disney career.
Wow, it's incredible. I didn't. So I don't think I had put all that together in our previous conversation. I knew parts of it, but I didn't have the timeline in my mind about how that. Isn't that interesting how it works? When one thing leads to another, it leads to another, and you can't always. I think Steve Jobs said in his Stanford speech, you can't connect the dots looking forward. It's not till you get to the end that you can look back and see how all these things were actually relevant, where at the time you didn't know.
I love that. I love that saying. I have it literally framed on my desk.
No way.
Because, for two reasons. One, I look back and like I said, I'm thankful and blessed of opportunities that I've had. And between you and me, it scares me a little bit to the uncertainty of the future. Yeah. And what gives me confidence is looking at that quote and, knowing that I have full confidence is where I've been based on those relationships. So trying to take that confidence and project it forward, gives me a little bit of less anxiety as I think about the future. So,
I know what we've dealt with for the last 5 years between the pandemic and then having to move out of our location and being in parking lots and all this other stuff. Like I look at it the same way because, at one point I came back to work for the family. I wasn't really enthusiastic about doing it because I had left to do other things. And when I was sitting there, my aunt passed away. Very suddenly, like pancreatic cancer, 6 weeks gone. And my sister and my brother, you got to stick around and help us. We don't know what we're doing. What do I know? But I sat in there trying to figure out what she was doing, and I'm like, okay, well, this is a banking issue. You know, I worked in banks all through college. And this is an insurance issue. I worked at an insurance company. I know how to do this. And this I learned when I tried to open my own restaurant and failed. We got to do this way. I sat there for a second because prior to this, I kept thinking all those three things I just mentioned, those different career paths, I hated them all. Like all of them, like I was either miserable for some, like not that I was miserable, I just couldn't see like how this was going to turn out my life.
Yeah.
And then when I sat there at her desk trying to figure out like what was she doing, because there's nothing on a computer, everything's pen and paper or pencil and paper. Yeah. Those three experiences, those dots, I could connect them forward to say, oh, I know what to do here. Thank God I did all those things. That's really what changed the trajectory of our business and how I got to the seat that I'm in now. So it's funny. I got to get that as a quote. I don't have it.
Oh, I love it. A friend of mine at Disney gave it to me, and it's a permanent place on my desk, which, like I said, when I get a little fearful of the future, I look back at it and it gives me confidence. So
yeah, that's cool. So now, you have this started with sort of public service, went into private, and now you're sort of a blend of the two of them. Like what are like cities like Anaheim, or I don't know if you work with other cities, but like Anaheim is an example since we've been talking about it. Like what kind of qualities would make a business stand out that they would want to work with them? Because they seem so business friendly the couple of times I've met with them. And some of them came from Long Beach, helped us with our Long Beach location, like Sergio Ramirez. And so it's interesting because trying to get things done in LA seems impossible. It's like it took us 30 months to open what we thought was a 6-month project, but it appears in Anaheim things move a lot faster.
You know, it does in one sense. And as I said before, they're very entrepreneurial. And this goes all the way back to Walt Disney, Gene Autry with the Angels, Disney, building a new NHL franchise. They're very good at looking outside the box. They've got a very forward-thinking city council right now with a great mayor and a city council that's all kind of working together to problem solve, which is wonderful. And then I would say, the day-to-day management, they got a great city staff. Jim Vanderpool's their city manager, just a wonderful guy. I know you met him when he came and visited the restaurant. And he's got a wonderful team. Ted White, Greg Garcia, Sergio. They pride themselves on solving problems, not creating problems. And they manage. They manage from the top down in terms of if you have an issue, at the counter, you've got the city manager's cell phone. So you can call him and they'll work through it. It's a very flat organization structure. So that's why I really like Anaheim. Going back all the way to my Disney days, this is a culture that has always been in place. Like I said, it goes back 70 years with Walt Disney, with all these large businesses. It's the city prides themselves on really working with businesses. They've got a great rating from J.D. Powers. The mayor a couple of years ago asked J.D. Powers to come into the city and rate them like a business.
Really? And
and they got really good reviews and they took some of the communication elements that J.D. Powers offered to heart. They're really open to new ideas. They're opening to, like I said, Walt Disney was first in creating a theme park, and that global model is now 6 places in the world. So
a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration there that sounds like you've witnessed between the private sector and the public sector, right? Like what makes a good relationship there on both ends? I get sort of the city part of it now, but what do you think big companies or any company that wants to get involved directly with a municipality like that, what do they need to be thinking or how should they be acting, I guess? Like what breakdowns do you see?
I would say it's a great question. The best example is the Samueli family, the Ducks, the owner of the Ducks. They came up with a concept several years ago called the OC Vibe. It's really creating a downtown for Orange County. And they've done just an amazing job acquiring land in and around the Honda Center. They acquired the management rights to the train station called Arctic. And they've just been moving, at light speed to build out this OC Vibe vision. I invite everybody on the podcast to go look at, ocvibe.com. They're really racing to open for the 2028 Olympics. And I have confidence that they're going to hit their mark and it's going to be a wonderful venue. It's already been announced, a wonderful venue for women's volleyball in the Honda Center. But, I would raise them, Michael, as best in class. They're very inclusive of the community in terms of what they wanted to do. They had some aggressive things that they wanted to accomplish in that space. They want to reflood the St. Anna River. So they're working with the Orange County Water District to create these inflatable barriers so it can be kind of a river walk sensation.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, they pulled in it's 2 hotels, 5,700 seat concert venue, and $4 billion investment. And the nice thing is
all that already kind of approved and ready to go. It's just being built.
Approved on a unanimous vote. Yeah, and now with a 7-member council, sometimes that's difficult. But compliments to Dan and Matt and George and all of the leadership team over there. They've done a great job. They worked very closely with the city, that I would say they're probably best in class as it relates to a big vision, big company, well financed, doing some great work in Anaheim along Catella. So it's going to complete that kind of eastwardly Catella corridor.
Just down the street from me.
Exactly. Right down, straight shot.
Yeah, I got one more question, and then we can kind of wrap up. I was thinking, you've seen all these projects come from concept. It sounds like, maybe I'm off, but it sounds like you've seen a lot of projects go from concept to reality. Disney alone, but then in Anaheim, the ones you're talking about. What kind of advice would you offer around staying focused and patient? Because some of these things can last a long time.
Yeah, that's the good news about Anaheim. Things come in, and they're legacy developments. They're built to last. Like I said, Disney's going on 70 years. So there's a lot of foundational investments. I think you guys would be a perfect fit for Anaheim. You have all the same characteristics: family focused. You got legacy, history.
It's going to be 70 years for us next year.
Yeah, exactly. 70 years. That's what I mean. Those kind of attributes will fit well in Anaheim. Not to mention, just candidly, there's a lack of quality seafood in the Orange County market. Where your dining experience is unique in terms of it's quality seafood, but it's a celebration of family. It's a celebration of good friends. Yeah. It's an experience. It's almost like an attraction in and of itself. And that doesn't exist in Orange County, and it doesn't exist in Anaheim outside of the amusement parks. So I would encourage you guys to look heavy in the Anaheim market. The resort area, there's 2 distinct areas. There's the resort area, which is dominated by Disney and hotels and hospitality. And just along Catella, you have this new Platinum Triangle district that is, as I mentioned, is being dominated by OC Vibe. Lennar is building homes in that area. They're trying to create walkability and connectability in terms of moving people back and forth. Some exciting plans in the works on that. But I really think a San Pedro Fish Market would thrive in the Anaheim market. And I invite you and your family to take a hard look. I think you would find a home in Anaheim.
Stay tuned for more on that. I was thinking too, as you're saying that, sort of related, unrelated, but I'm more of the visionary in the company, right? So one of the challenges I always have is there's an idea, let's do it. And then everyone's like, you're crazy, never mind. And you sort of realize over time that we've come so far with the visionary ideas I've had, despite having to pull everyone through tar, that they can't even see. We're 3 times bigger than we were, by the way. Excellent. We've survived all these things because of the vision that I've had. And I was listening to a podcast, I think it was on Wondery, and it was kind of the story of Disneyland opening all the way through and why Walt Disney went to Disney World and that whole history. But the thing that really stuck out for me was the final 2 or 3 minutes of this series of episodes, because they're reenacting things. Yeah. And it was Walt Disney in Anaheim before anything was built, just in all the farmland, trying to talk. I can't remember who he was with. It was maybe Bob Hope. But they listed all the celebrities that he was friends with, and they all thought he was insane. They were like, no, listen, the park's done. We're going to build the park. Please buy up the land around the park, because I'm worried it's going to turn into all these kind of cheesy hotels and things, because I don't have the funding to do the rest. And none of them could see the vision of like, why would somebody drive 30 miles to go on a roller coaster? It's like, it's not a roller coaster park.
Yeah.
And I go, man, that is such the great example of what a visionary has to deal with. And the reason I also was following is we use the entrepreneur operating system, and they use Walt and Roy a lot in their examples of Walt was the visionary, Roy was the integrator. It's like, okay, great ideas, brother, but we got to fit it down into what our budget can afford. So do you have anything to share about that, or any noticing from being there for all those years?
Yeah. I had the opportunity to hear a great story from Keith Murdoch. He was the city manager back in the 50s when, the Disney folks approached him. He called me. I was at the park, head of government relations, and he called and said, Hey, Chris, I've got a box of old material. Will you come and pick it up? I'm like, I'm at your house in 5 minutes. So we ended up talking for a couple hours, and he shared this great story with me. It was one of the first interactions with Walt Disney and the city of Anaheim. They met kind of secretly, and they invited Keith and the mayor up to Burbank for an afternoon to kind of pitch the project. So the two of them drove all the way up, and at the time it was a long drive. And Walt Disney pulled out all the stops, like a 4-hour, and Keith is telling me this story, 4-hour dog and pony show, and, walking him through the studio. Finally, they come to, this model and all the print material, and they lay it all out, and Walt's done. And he says, do you need questions? And like a good city manager, he defers to the mayor, and the mayor sits there in silence for, Keith said, a painstaking amount of time. And he finally says, one question. Says, are you going to serve, are you going to sell gum at this amusement park? And from Keith's perspective, everybody in the room was like, what? Are you going to sell gum? So they all looked at Walt Disney, and Walt Disney says, no, we're not going to sell gum. And the mayor says, okay, all right. And that was it. And they didn't want to, they didn't want to show their hands. So they get back in the car, they're driving back, and Keith says to the mayor, what was that about? Are you going to sell gum? And the mayor says, Keith, I grew up in this area, and the only amusement park I have reference is the Pike in Long Beach. Mm-hmm. And at the time it was, kind of a seedy location. It was dirty, a lot of, crime and activity. So the mayor's only reference was that, and he hated that anywhere you walked in the Pike, there was gum on the floor. So by asking that question, it was a way for him asking Walt Disney, are you going to keep are you going to build something quality and clean? Yeah. And the details matter. So by the mayor asking that question and Walt saying, no, we're not going to sell gum because, it makes a mess, allowed for the next meeting, which ultimately led to, the creation of Disneyland in Anaheim. So it was a great story. Back to your point,
That's a great story. I thought the same thing. Must be because the gum is going to be everywhere. It's so hard to clean.
And it showcased that Walt Disney wasn't. He was looking to deliver his vision, like you said. He was a visionary, and he wanted to deliver his vision. And it wasn't about cost. It wasn't about making revenue, because I guarantee they could have sold gum at Disneyland. They would have done really well, but it didn't fit with the guest experience, and so. It didn't fall within the vision, and they held true to that. Even today, the guest experience and the vision that Walt Disney had 70 years ago is carefully guarded philosophy that the team manages every single day that the park is open, which is great. So it's a special place. Like I said, I think the San Pedro Fish Market, you and your family would do well in the resort market. And compliments to you for having that vision, because it could have been easy just to stay in San Pedro, struggle through COVID, but you and your family learned, and you're diversifying. I know you've got, plans to grow in Monterey Bay. Yeah. You grew in the Long Beach area. I think Anaheim's a perfect next natural step, and I strongly encourage you to come home to Anaheim.
I can feel the pull. I feel the love.
Do it.
Well, thanks for being on this episode of Fish Fact. Thanks for taking the time to talk. It's great stories, and I appreciate you as part of my professional network, but also as a friend, man. Much gratitude. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate our time together.
Absolutely. All right, signing off. Talk to you all later.